YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, and I am in Total War Rome 2 for another Heir's faction focus, and today we're going to be talking about Pontus. Do you believe they're the next in line? Yep, after Parthia. After my harrowing defeat with Parthia. That was a good game by the USSR guy. I mean, honestly, he picked a great faction to counter Parthia, and he did it the right way. Parthia is a little less strong now that they've kind of nerfed... Well, they haven't nerfed shot cavalry, they've just increased the value of melee cavalry. So, in any case, that's enough about Parthia. Today we're talking about Pontus. And Pontus is actually one of my favorite factions in the game, because kind of like Carthage, they're just kind of an interesting faction. They have some interesting unique units, and they're kind of a mix of Hellenic and Eastern, and I just think they're a fun faction to play as. And so let's take a look at this and see their generals. Of course, they offer Pontic Swordsmen, Bronze Shield Pikemen, or Pontic Royal Cavalry. There is no special general skills for Pontus. Again, the only some of the factions that came in Caesar and Gaul got those. As far as melee infantry, they have Hillmen, which are very similar to what you would have seen with Parthia. They're split half between armor piercing and standard attack, so good if you can get them into the back of someone. Going to be terrible in a frontal assault. Let's see, so Mercenary Celtic Warrior, same thing. Not as much armor piercing, of course, but they have a high weapon damage. Fairly low attack. It's really just best as a flanking unit, not a frontline unit. Pontic Swordsmen are an interesting unit, actually. They're not a real strong sword unit, but they're cheaper than your standard sword unit of this type. They are a formation attack unit. They have used the whip. Their melee attack is pretty low. Pop one upgrade on these guys, it goes up to 39. Don't know if it's really worth it. Pop it up another one, you'd be up to about 40. It just depends on what you think's worth it. I think the interesting thing about this unit is it is a formation attack unit, which means it could hold out a little longer as a frontline unit. It does have a little bit better charge than Roman units. Not going to buy you a lot, but it'll help. And it's got not so great health, but it's got good melee defense, armor, and base morale. It's a little bit lower than a Roman unit, but not much. And for the price, again, not that bad. As far as spear infantry, they have Eastern Spearmen, which, much like Parthia, are just terrible. The only thing these guys are is charge fodder and meat shields, but I guess occasionally even they have their use. Thurios Spears, which are, a fairly capable formation attack spear unit. You can take them out of formation attack. They have rapid advance. Not bad as a flanking unit either. Good shield strength on these guys, typically. Yep, 25 shield value. Not the best, but not bad. And then you have Hoplites, which is your kind of run-of-the-mill type Hoplite. Low weapon damage on these guys. Don't get them confused with like Spartan Hoplites or something. They're not going to be as strong. They do have a fairly good charge bonus. Obviously good armor, health, and base morale for the price. Also good melee defense. It's just going to be a defensive unit again, or something to maybe be used against heavy cavalry, or to try and soak up missiles. One of the two. Leve Pikemen, of course, the same as Leve Pikemen with other factions, just a great cost-effective unit from the front. They're not impenetrable, but close. They don't have a real high attack, so the only units that they'll kill fast from the front are going to be like low or no armor units. Then you have Bronze Shields, which are considerably more expensive, but they do come with the Encourage ability, which is an important feature. They're one of the cheapest units in the game. Not the cheapest, but one of the cheapest that come with it. And they do have a pretty high melee attack for a pike unit of that price. So these are pretty potent units, but again, the challenge with expensive pike units is that they're a defensive unit only. They really can't be used offensively. So you would have to have a plan with Pontus to bring your opponent to you, which Pontus is capable of such things, so just be aware of it. As far as missile infantry, they have access to Eastern Archers, which for the price gets you a pretty good attack and range for an archer unit, but don't expect a whole lot out of these guys. They have fairly low shots per minute, be aware of that. Eastern Javelinmen are great value. You're still going to get a lot of kills with these guys, even with the nerfed ammunition. They could be, and they're going to be really good against light infantry units like Leve Pikemen or Barbarian Swords or units with no armor. They're going to rip those guys to shreds. They'll still do pretty good even against Roman units. They have a pretty good armor piercing value. Yeah, 11. That's pretty high. So this is going to be a pretty good unit at trying to tackle infantry in general, but it does have limited ammunition. Make sure you spend it properly. Eastern Slingers right here, a good unit for the price. They're the same as the Eastern Slingers you see with Parthia. And then they have Pontic Peltast, which do have quite a bit of armor. Not the best shield value out there for Peltast, but not bad. So these guys could maybe move through a little bit of incoming skirmish fire to throw their javelins, but be careful because they're more expensive. Pontic Royal Cav is a pretty sturdy shot cav unit. They're going to be on par with a lot of other units, kind of like maybe Companion Cav, Hellenic Royal Cav, trying to think of other units that are similar to them. That's a good comparison. They're going to be in that neighborhood. They're not going to be able to take cataphracts. They're going to get beat by Ptolemaic Cav. There's some other Cav out there that's going to beat them. You're going to have to be careful with shot Cav like this nowadays, because really these guys are intended to be charged into the back of infantry, or to be charged into another Cav unit and get a good charge. If you put them in against melee Cav without getting a good charge, depending on the melee Cav you're fighting, it may win that fight. Be aware of that. That's something different in the most recent patch, is that melee Cav can beat shot Cav in an extended melee unless the shot cavalry gets a good charge. As far as melee Cav, they have Mercenary Celtic Light Horse, which I think is a pretty useful unit. It's got a lot of attack for being a light unit, and a great unit for delivering a rear charge. Not a real high charge bonus, but it's pretty high for a melee Cav unit at 39, so again, these guys are a pretty cheap way to deliver a rear charge or to chase down enemy skirmishers. If you look at the Citizen Cav, the charge bonus is only 28. It's considerably lower than the Mercenary Celtic Light Horse, and their attack's lower. The biggest difference is these guys are going to have more armor, health, and a little more health, way more armor. So these guys will have a little more ability to resist missile fire and a few other things. Noble Blood Cav is going to be a heavy melee Cav. They've got a pretty good charge bonus. Okay melee defense. They're going to have a good armor and shield value for a horse. They're going to have pretty good health and base morale, as well as a pretty strong attack. So yeah, you're going to have to watch out for these, because I'm curious with cavalry what the armor piercing amount is. Not bad. As far as skirmisher Cav, they have horse skirmishers, which can be useful to keep enemy Cav busy and harass. Throw some javelins into the back of enemy infantry, and then same thing with mercenary Scythian horse archers. Since these guys have heavy shot, this can also be a very useful unit. If you're able to get rid of enemy cavalry, these guys can be devastating to enemy infantry, because they can get into point-blank range and fire heavy shot. The Scythe Chariots are very powerful. I have not used them after the Seasons and Wonders update that nerfed down their mass. I don't know what they're like right now. I would assume if you get them into units properly, they can still be dangerous, but I have not tried them, so I can't really give you any information as to where they are right now. They do have a unique Scorpion Pop Ballista unit here. These guys are kind of interesting. I mean, it's not all that different than a Snake Pop Ballista from Carthage, I don't think. Alright, well, let me show them off to you in battle. I actually have a replay to show you this time, so I might be able to give you more close-ups. I know you all probably used to me doing the live battles, and maybe some of you like that better than the replay, but I like the replay because this will let me show you some of the units up close. I'll kind of keep mixing up. I played against a Roman player. There's his army there. It's Armored Legionnaires, Hastati, a couple of Praetorian Guard, a couple of Triarii, Velotes, and a Legatus. So he has chosen to go infantry heavy, and considering that skirmishers have taken some nerfing, that's probably not a super bad plan. Heavy infantry is definitely a little stronger as of the most recent updates. Here's his Armored Legionnaires, very tough looking units. Praetorian Guard right here in the center, so his center is going to be very strong. And then more Armored Legionnaires, and they are backed up by Hastati here. And then he's got one Armored Legionnaire in the back, and then here's his two Triarii units. And then his Legatus over here. I'm fielding a Pontic army of Leve Pikes in the center, just 4 of them. And it is on medium settings. That was something my opponent had set, medium unit sizes. Here's my Pontic Swordsmen. They really are a cool looking unit. And then here's my, let's see, these are my Eastern Slingers. And then behind them I have 4 Eastern Archers. So I have 2 Eastern Slingers, 4 Eastern Archers, and more Pontic Swordsmen there. So in total I have 4 Pontic Swordsmen, 4 Leve Pikemen, 4 Eastern Archers, 2 Eastern Slingers, 4 Noble Blood Cav, 2 Pontic Royal Cav. So knowing that I was going to play Rome, and Rome comes heavy on sword infantry, I brought a lot of melee Cav to hopefully be able to demonstrate to you how much more effective melee Cav is versus infantry now. So keep in mind these guys cost 750, and these Armored Legionnaires over here are almost 900. Hastati are, oh, I can't remember if they cost 4 something or 5 something. So I want to get the skirmishing started. I have the range advantage. My opponent's waiting on me, I think, because he doesn't want to march into all my archers. Understandable. And you'll notice I actually just split my archers to either flank to try and get flanking shots. Obviously, I'm hoping to fix some of his infantry against my pikes, and then I can take shots in from the flanks with my archers. Archers don't have a lot of armor piercing value, so that's my hope there. My opponent was going to use his general to chase back my slingers, but of course when he sees my pikes, he decides that's not a good idea. And right here I noticed that his infantry is unsupported by spears, and it's all of his Hastati. So he was thinking he might be able to run his Hastati forward and get things started, but my Noble Blood Cav is just going to absolutely sack these guys, just completely ruin them. Light sword infantry like this, and also kind of like barbarian sword infantry, will just get ripped to shreds by heavy melee Cav these days, and even lighter melee Cav. But you can see how fast, since they weren't braced. If they would have braced, this would have taken a little longer. But look at this, my Noble Blood Cav here, already 74 kills. So I'm going to take him at this point, and I'm just going to charge right on into the Armored Legionnaires. Once again, my opponent should have stayed braced, but he did not. My attack order, though, it's been given, but my guys are still hung up on routing Romans, so they haven't charged forward yet. And look, the Hastati are breaking over here as well. And right now my Slingers are able to start firing at his Velites. So right now my Cav is basically just disrupting his infantry lines and getting a lot of pretty cost-effective kills, because he's killed hardly any of my Cav. And right here I got into an Armored Legionnaire. Here I'm going to charge his Armored Legionnaires with 2 Pontic Swordsmen. This is basically just a holding maneuver. His Armored Legionnaires would win that fight, and I've got a rear charge coming in. I've already delivered 1 rear charge with my Pontic Royal Cav here, which has devastated that Armored Legionnaire. And let's watch what happens here. So they're at 71 Legionnaires. Here comes the charge. Brutal rear charge. I didn't even activate Trample. Yeah, so they just lost about 20 Legionnaires in that charge. So, and an Armored Legionnaire is a strong unit. So here comes those flanking shots from my archers that I talked about. I'm going to target his Praetorian Guard. I won't get a whole lot of kills, but again, look at my cavalry intercepting his sword unit while it isn't braced. This is going to hold it down and start to tick off some of the hit points. He charges in his general, and again, my archers are just going to keep firing flank shots. Look at this Armored Legionnaires. Lost almost 20 men to my Cav, and look, another rear charge going to be delivered by my general. Bam! Shock Cav is definitely well used in this type of format, and again, delivering more rear charges over here to this Armored Legionnaire that I have pinned down with Pontic Swordsmen. So Pontic Swordsmen, as you can see in this case, worked out as a solid flanking unit. They can hold their own against the Roman infantry for a little while. You don't want to just go head-to-head for too long, but with the support of cavalry, they're most definitely capable of holding the Roman units. And then now I'm able to march my pikemen in and fix my opponent in the center. So you can see I've clicked attack orders here. His men are going to be fixed. His general got caught in here too and got killed. And all the while I'm just going to continue to outflank and deliver rear charges. So his Praetorian Guard are very strong units. They're right here in the center. But they're just not going to make a whole lot of headway in the midst of all these pikemen. And again, all these rear charges being delivered. And then the missile fire and all that stuff's going to take its toll. These Praetorian Guard are already down 20 men from my Cav and missiles, and these are down 11 men. And when you think about a 350 talent unit of missiles getting this many kills on an elite unit, it's definitely worth it. Look at my pikes here. They had an attack order on another unit, so they're now out of formation with the Praetorian Guard. But at this point, my opponent's troops actually started to rout due to army losses. So hopefully you all got a little bit of a look at some of the Pontic units here. Of course, you mostly got to look at the Pontic, or Noble Blood Cav, and the Pontic Royal Cav. I got you some good shots of what these guys can do against infantry. Pontic Royal Cav, of course, use them in rear charges, and of course they are good at mopping up enemy shock Cav and enemy melee Cav if you get a good charge into the melee Cav, but still be careful. Like, if you take these guys into an Aspis Cav, you're liable to lose that fight, possibly. So just remember that, because melee Cav has changed. What is the best way to kill melee Cav these days? Well, the best way to get them killed is to pin them down and start hammering them with missile fire. Or if you can get them to charge into pikes, but that's going to be unlikely. So you can see my archers really didn't even get any kills, like 8 kills. So it shows you like how a heavily armored unit, like a Roman unit with a big shield, is really hard to take out with archers. But, you know, they were there. They could have potentially been used to, you know, a late game. Like, say my opponent punched through with his infantry. I could have used them in late game to skirmish away. Look at my Pontic Swordsmen. All of them getting a fairly respectable number of kills, considering that they were in combat and didn't have too many losses against these Roman units. I did support them with my Cav units. And if you look here, these are all infantry kills in my Pontic Royal Cav from rear charges. So, you know, killing that many men in a rear charge is handy. And remember, this was in medium unit settings, or, yeah, I think it was medium unit settings. It could have been normal unit settings. I normally have mine on Ultra and Campaign. So in any case, yeah, this is a lot of kills for some of these units because the unit settings were smaller. And really the biggest problem for my opponent is his Praetorian Guard really never got a chance to play an important role in that battle. And the rest of his infantry got mopped up hardcore by my Cav and Pontic Swordsmen. So yeah, in any case, hope you all enjoyed this little look at Pontus. Let's go back into the custom battle. So who would I use Pontus against? They're fun to use against just about everybody. They're going to be good against barbarian tribes because their pikes will make it tricky for the barbarians. They're going to have to outflank you. They'd be fun to use against Hellenic factions since Pontus has access to side chariots and slightly different units. I think that Pontic Swordsmen are going to be cheaper and probably a little more cost-effective than, say, like a Thorax sword unit from a Hellenic faction. They're not a power faction by any means, but they're a good faction. I'm trying to think who else. They could be used well against nomadic factions because you could pike box and have lots of skirmishers, plus a decent cab if you need it. I mean, there's just a bunch of uses for Pontus. Again, not a power faction, but a fun faction to play in a different faction. Hope you all enjoyed this faction focus. Go out and enjoy some time with Pontus. And HeirofCarthage signing off for now.